What's good, guys? It's TSG. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about each tier of Illuvium Land and what that means, the differences between them, and what's going to be the best tier for you. In this video, I'm not going to be spending any time explaining or discussing what each fuel and element actually does. I've already done that in a previous video. You can check that out over here, and the link will be in the description. So today, we're just going to focus on the tiers, breaking them down, what's different about them, and if you're trying to get into Illuvium Land, or if you've already got a land, making sure that the tier you have is right for you. All right, before we get into it, I am gonna mention the prices of the lands in this video, and I'm saying it now, this is not financial advice. I'm just using that as kind of a point of reference so you guys know what's going on and giving you additional information, but this is not financial advice. Do your own research, make your own decisions. I'm just relaying the message and the information, the data that I perceived. This is not financial advice, guys. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so let's get straight into it. So right here, we've got a tier 1 plot of land. So for those of you guys that don't know, there are 5 tiers of Illuvium Land. So we're gonna start from tier 1 and move all the way over to tier 5. So right now we can have a look, tier 1 land. We can see that this particular plot has 2 lakes and 1 outcrop, 1 carbon outcrop. So you can have a look right here, there are 3 elements, and over here we have 1 fuel site. Tier 1s come with 3 element sites and 1 fuel site. So just keep that in mind as we compare it with the other ones. So 3 elements and 1 fuel site. And for those of you guys that are completely fresh to Illuvium Land, I'll do a quick breakdown. Illuvium sites are going to be what you use inside of the Illuvium Zero game, and the fuel can actually be sold, so that could generate potential revenue, whereas elements you can't sell. So just keep that in mind. 3 elements and 1 fuel for tier 1. And we can have a look here. At the moment, this is the plot that's on the floor, and that's at about 400, let's say 400 US dollars. If that's the price point you're looking at, tier 1 is probably where you're going to be looking. Moving on to tier 2. So you can see already there's a lot more than the tier 1. Double to be exact. In regards to the elements, we had 3 previously, we now have 6. We're essentially focusing on the fact that there are now 6 element sites and 3 fuel sites. So your element sites have doubled and your fuel site has gone up 300%. You have 3 times as much chance to sell and generate revenue than you do in tier 1. And as you can see right here, the price actually reflects that pretty accurately. So we have 3 times as much fuel to sell, and the price is 3 times as high as well. So that's quite fascinating to look at. So if your price point is around that 1300, mind you that this is the floor price and the ones after that do jump up quite quickly. But if this is the floor price that you're looking at, I mean, it does make sense for a tier 2 right here. So moving on to tier 3, in my opinion, this is where it gets really interesting because they start to implement something called a landmark. And as you can see here, the landmark gives you a bonus for element sites. So essentially, you're hoping that your landmark lines up with one of the elements that you have a lot of. If we have a look at this specific plot of land right here, we can see we've got 8 lakes. And the landmark that we'd be hoping to get is the Eternal Spring. But without that, like this right here, increases silicon. Unfortunately, we have no silicon in this land, so it's not the most ideal landmark to have on this plot. But anyway, getting back to it, we can see that we had 6 elements and 3 fuels in the tier 2. And in the tier 3, we can see it's gone up by 3 elements. We now have 9 elements, and the fuels that we can sell actually goes up to 6, so it's doubled. And what's fascinating here is, even though the fuel is doubled, we saw from tier 1 to tier 2, it went up 3 times, and the price went up 3 times. From tier 2 to tier 3, the fuel went up by 3, it doubled, but the price is at 5,500, give or take. So that's a 4x in price compared to the 2x in fuel that we're getting. That is because tier 3s actually generate more. They've got a boost that generates the amount of resources that they get, which is something that we need to consider when looking at these tiers. So quick rundown, tier 1, we have 3 elements and 1 fuel. That was at about $400. Tier 2, we have 6 elements and 3 fuels coming in at around $1,300. Tier 3, we have 9 elements and 6 fuels coming in at around $5,500. So depending on what price point you're looking at, these are the facts and the data that we need to consider if we're looking at getting into the Illuvium Land business. And now we're moving on to the high tiers right here. And now we're looking at a tier 4. So tier 4 also has a landmark, but instead of having a landmark that actually gives a bonus to elements, it actually gives a bonus to the fuels. And like I said at the very start, fuel is the thing that you can actually sell in the open market to possibly, potentially generate a revenue. So having an additional bonus on that actually makes really good sense. You can actually see that the landmark is targeting the fuel with the least fuel site. So again, this is not a an ideal situation, but it's definitely better than the last one. They had nothing lining up with the landmark. That was just unfortunate. So right here, guys, in the tier 4, we can see that there are 12 elements now. We're really getting it. You can see it on the map. There's a lot going on this plot of land. Tier 4s give you 12 elements and 9 fuel sites. So with 12 elements and 9 fuel sites, you're really looking to be generating and pumping it out, and you're really looking at Illuvium Land as a serious investment at this point, in my opinion. If you're looking at a tier 4, it's not just something that you can play or throw, or it's still very speculative. It does depend on how much capital you're starting off with, but I'll say for me, in my particular position, this would definitely be a major investment if I was to get a tier 4. We can see here that, again, the fuel from the previous tier, it went from 9 fuel sites in tier 3 to 12 fuel sites in tier 4. So it's only gone up by 3. But again, the price here is actually a 4x. We're now looking at $21,000. That, in some places, is a deposit on a home. So like I said, this is no joke. We're talking large sums of money here. So tier 4s, like I said, we're looking at 12 element sites and 9 fuel sites. So we're really up here with the big boys now. And finally, the creme de la creme, the tier 5 land. So this is monstrous. This is monstrous. There are actually only 7 tier 5s in the entire Illuvium ecosystem. And the landmark is a special landmark. It doesn't give you a benefit for elements or for fuels. It actually has an arena where all the esports are going to be played in, competed in. We're going to be going from arena to arena. You can be selling advertising rights. It's an insane form of revenue generation, potentially. Like I said, there's only 7 of these in the entire Illuvium ecosystem, 1 on each region. As you can see, there are 2 plots here that were actually meant to be sold in the June land sale, but they have been pushed back. So let's have a look at the elements. So the tier 5 has 15, yo, these are crazy numbers, 15 element sites and 12 fuel sites. So I'm not going to repeat the whole thing about fuel being sold. You know this by now. And the price of these tier 5 lands is a lot. It's a lot of money. It's money that we don't know because it's going to be in proper English auction. So they're going to bid. We're going to have whales bidding on it higher and higher and higher. And we have no idea. They've speculated millions of dollars. I mean, that puts me out of the range by just a couple hundred, and I'm definitely not even close to looking at a tier 5. But tier 5s are actually going to be absolutely insane. They're looking at like a Binance buying it, something like a big company like that. That's who they're looking at to target with these tier 5s. So when they do sell that, I'm sure there's going to be a big event. I know Andrew's going to pull something out of the hat. It's going to be insane. It's 100% going to be a spectacle. And I'm so excited to be a part of that, even if it's just from the sidelines and viewing it. All right, guys, so that's a breakdown of all the different tiers of land in Illuvium 0 and the Illuvium ecosystem. So I'm going to break it down one last time. A tier 1 gives you 3 elements, 1 fuel site, and right now it's going for about 400 USD. A tier 2 has 6 elements, 3 fuel sites, and the floor price is currently 1,300 USD. A tier 3 comes with 9 elements, 6 fuel sites, and the floor price currently is 5,500 USD. A tier 4 has 12 elements, 9 fuel sites, and is coming in at 21,000 USD. And finally, the big one, the Godzilla of them all, a tier 5 comes with 15 elements, 12 fuel sites, and it costs a lot of money because it's going to be done in an English auction. In my opinion, if you're looking at getting into Illuvium Land, the best tier that I'd recommend you looking at is actually the tier that's within your budget. What do I mean by that? I mean, there's a lot of hype going on online with people saying, I have this tier, I have that tier. Don't get sucked into all of that. Don't keep up with the Joneses. Understand your circumstance and that you are an individual. Understand where you stand on everything. Figure out what you can do with your budget. Don't go crazy with it. Metaverse Land in this point in time is still a speculative asset, whether it's Illuvium, Sandbox, or Decentraland, anything like that. Metaverse Land is speculative, so please, if you want to expose yourself to it, by all means, go for it. But please consider the macro environment, understand exactly what you're trying to get out of this investment, out of this purchase, and please do it responsibly. Don't keep up with the Joneses, and please try and do this in a way that you're still going to be protected, and if anything happens, you're not going to lose everything. I know this isn't the direct answer that you guys are looking for. I know I didn't tell you exactly what the best tier of land you should buy is. To be honest, guys, I just want you to be safe. I want you guys to have an enjoyable experience with everything Web3, with everything Illuvium, and I don't want you to be stressed out and panicking. I want us all to have a good time and just enjoy ourselves. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys found this video helpful or insightful or just beneficial to you in any way. If it was beneficial, let me know in the comments below what you found helpful, what tier you're going to be getting, if you are going to get anything. Let me know. And if you like this type of content, as always, guys, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, hit the notification button, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.